All right, today we're going to tackle a really fascinating economic puzzle. So let's get right into it. For about 20 years, starting in the early 2000s and going all the way to 2021, prices in Israel and really around a lot of the world were just stable. It was this strange period where inflation, that thing that was a constant headache for decades, it just seemed to, well, disappear. So the big question is, where on earth did it go? I mean, just look at this chart. The difference is absolutely dramatic. Back in the early 1990s, Israel was dealing with inflation rates up around 20%. Now, jump forward to that two-decade period between 2000 and 2021, and the rate just tanks to this really comfortable 1 to 3% range. That massive cool down is what economists call disinflation. So, to get to the bottom of this, we've got to talk about the main player in this story, the Bank of Israel. You can kind of think of the Bank of Israel like the thermostat for the entire economy, Its whole job is to keep things from getting way too hot, that's high inflation, or way too cold, which could mean a recession. It's this constant balancing act, and it's all guided by a very specific set of goals. Okay, so the central bank is juggling a bunch of different things. We're talking about everything from supporting economic growth to making sure the financial markets are stable and even keeping an eye on the whole banking system. But, and this is the really important part, not all these goals are on the same level. There's a clear hierarchy. Right. So the thing you absolutely have to remember is that goal number one, price stability, is the top dog. It's the most important mission. Everything else comes second to making sure prices stay stable. So what are we actually talking about when we say price stability? It's not like prices are frozen in place. No. It's about making things so predictable that when you or a business are making big financial decisions, like buying a house or investing in new equipment, you're not really worried about what inflation is going to do. And to make this super clear and not just some vague idea, the government actually sets an official target. For Israel, that target is to keep inflation somewhere between 1% and 3% every year. That gives the central bank a very clear bullseye to aim for. All right, so we've got the goal. Now let's put on our detective hats and figure out what powerful forces helped keep inflation inside that target for so long. Okay, clue number one was a huge change in strategy. Back in the 90s, the Bank of Israel started publicly announcing what its inflation target was. And after about a decade of getting it just right, that 1 to 3% target really stuck. See, by telling everyone what the goal was, it anchored their expectations. People and businesses started to act like inflation would stay low, and that, in and of itself, helps keep it low. It's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, this wasn't just the central bank acting on its own. At the very same time, the government got in on the act. They basically put some hard rules on their own spending and borrowing by putting a legal cap on the budget deficit, saying it can't be more than 3% of the country's entire economic output. They were signaling a commitment to being fiscally responsible. That helps prevent them from just printing money to pay bills, which is a classic recipe for high inflation. Okay, but here's where things get really interesting. These smart local policies, they didn't happen in a bubble. They were happening at the exact same time as these massive global shifts that were basically giving them a huge tailwind, all pushing prices in the same direction, down. I mean, just think about what was happening across the globe back then. You had globalization just explode with countries like China joining the world market. Technology was advancing at an incredible pace, making everything from manufacturing to logistics way more efficient. Suddenly, companies had access to a massive global workforce. It all just meant a huge downward pressure on prices everywhere. Okay, so we've got smart policy at home, and we've got these huge global trends pushing prices down. Now let's add the third and final piece of the puzzle, a few things that were unique to the Israeli economy. So right there in Israel, a few other things were going on. First, the economy was opening up more and more to competition, and more competition almost always leads to lower prices. Then you have the Israeli shekel getting stronger over this period, which is great for consumers because it makes everything you import cheaper. And finally, people just started talking more about the cost of living, creating real public pressure on companies and politicians to keep prices in check. So when you put it all together, you can see what's going on. This 20-year mystery of low inflation. It wasn't just one thing. It wasn't a single silver bullet. It was this perfect storm of forces all coming together at the right time. And this really breaks it down for you. You can think about it like three pillars holding everything up. First, you've got the policy and strategy pillar. These were the deliberate choices, the smart rules like inflation targeting. Then you've got that huge global forces pillar, globalization, technology, acting like a massive weight pushing prices down. And finally, you had the local factors pillar. More competition, a strong currency, locking it all into place. All three working together is what solved the case. So, that whole incredible period of calm, it brings us right up to today. And it leaves us with a really big question for the future. So here's the bottom line, the thing we all need to be thinking about now. Are those forces the same ones that kept prices stable for 2 decades? Are they getting weaker or maybe even going into reverse? With everything we see happening with globalization and supply chains, what does the next chapter of this story look like for our wallets? And figuring that out, well, that's the big economic mystery we're all living through right now.